Before we begin Unit 12, here is the answer to the Unit 11 question. The best answer is choice A.
Natural capital refers to the Earth's level of biodiversity, or resources and services that keep ecosystems in balance and life in existence, just as economic capital refers to a person's wealth or financial resources that supports him or her in society. A keystone species provides specific traits vital to the survival of its ecosystem. The four forms of Earth's diversity are species, functional, genetic, and ecological. Unit 12. Change is good, but not guaranteed.
There's a common misconception that species will be able to adapt and evolve in order to cope with human-induced environmental change. However, those who believe this to be true don't understand the fundamental principles of the evolutionary process.
The truth is that natural species adaptation is not capable of keeping pace with the current rate of unnatural environmental change. The problem is compounded by the Earth's diminishing species, functional, genetic, and ecological diversities.
The theory of evolution maintains that all species descended from earlier ancestral species.
Charles Darwin proposed that individuals possessing certain traits are more likely to survive and reproduce under a particular set of environmental conditions than those without them. He called this phenomenon natural selection. Natural selection does not take place in one organism. Instead, the genetic makeup of a population gradually changes over generations through random mutations or mistakes made in replicating DNA molecules, the ones that determine the particular traits for each living thing.
Every once in a while during the reproduction process, a mistake is made in a DNA molecule that results in an adaptive trait or characteristic that gives an organism an advantage in its ecosystem.
An adaptive trait is any heritable characteristic that improves an organism's ability to survive and reproduce at a higher rate than other members of the population.
Eventually, the entire population shifts to one in which that advantageous characteristic becomes the norm.
So why don't species just adapt to the changing conditions caused by human activity?
The first reason is that mutations are random and uncommon. It can't be predicted when or even if a mutation will occur. Organisms have no control over DNA mutations. Simply stated, an organism has to get plain lucky.
The second reason is that even if species could produce the genetic mutations necessary to cope with changing environmental conditions, there simply is not enough time. Humans have completely transformed the world in only a few centuries, but evolution requires generations upon generations of mutations to produce advantageous adaptive traits.
The fact that human activities continue to diminish the planet's genetic diversity doesn't help matters. With the expected increase in human population over the next 50 to 100 years, there is no way that evolution can keep up with the manner and speed with which we are changing the environment.
There's a reason that species live where they do.
The characteristics of a specific environment determine what ecosystems and organisms will evolve to exist in that area.
Over generations, species adapt to the natural, slow, but ever-changing environmental conditions and evolve to survive in their current environments. That's why you'll not find iguanas in the Arctic or polar bears in the Sahara Desert. It should be noted that not all species are fortunate enough to evolve, even when environmental changes occur naturally.
For example, as its surroundings changed, the woolly mammoth did not evolve, was no longer able to cope with changing environmental conditions, and the species became extinct.
Climate is an area's weather pattern over a long period of time and defined by average temperature and precipitation records.
Based on their distinctive climates, scientists have divided the Earth into several large terrestrial regions called biomes. Tropical rainforest, Arctic tundra, temperate deciduous forest, chaparral, and savanna are a few well-known examples.
The biomes of the world have taken thousands of years to evolve. The millions of species that interact with one another in each of these biomes have been delicately selected by nature to perform their specific roles.
So what happens when humans do something that alters the natural environment? The answer can range from nothing at all to the total annihilation of a species or entire ecosystems.
When humans interact with an environment in a manner by which the ecosystem is unaffected, we can say that we are living in harmony with nature and sustainably.
However, when the delicate balance of an ecosystem is disrupted, there is no way of knowing what the ultimate outcome will be.
Human-induced climate change, deforestation, urban development, and converting grassland to cropland are just a few examples of the ways that humans are impacting the biomes that have existed for thousands of years.
If affected species could change in order to cope with our unnatural activities, that would be good, but it's not guaranteed, and certainly not likely. Here is your question for Unit 12.
Which of the following statements is true?
Choice A. Species adapt to changing environmental conditions.
Choice B. Natural selection refers to individuals of a species possessing certain traits that make them more likely to survive and reproduce under a particular set of environmental conditions.
Choice C. Species must decide when they have to adapt or face extinction.
Or choice D. Species determine the characteristics of their environment.
The answer and explanation are provided at the beginning of Unit 13.